Hey y'all! Well, today we're going to do the first part of a series on this Elekit TU-8888. 4/8? Yeah, 4/8. And got a pair of these from Victor King up in Canada. And he customizes these with some better resistors and done some tuning on that front, you know, with different resistors and stuff that he likes. He's also got his favorite capacitors, which he's probably not going to be real happy about. I'm changing some of those. We're probably going to use Mundorf aluminum oil. And he likes using KT-170s in them, which adds $300 a piece to the cost. And trying to stay within budget, I'm going to be using some PS Vane Summit KT-88s that I have here that, yes, they were given to me by PS Vane, so for me, they're free, and I haven't had a chance to use them yet, and so I think this is a perfect candidate to use some top-end PS Vane tubes in it. And we can always put some KT-170s in it later. But building these specifically because I'm looking for some higher powered tube amps to drive these new Gershman audio speakers that I've got, that they're not happy with a 2A3. They want something with some more oomph behind them, and so I think these are going to fit the bill. So today I just wanted to do an unboxing, kind of show you what you get in the kit and what he sent with these kits. He sent me some tubes that he really likes in this amp and that sort of stuff. So already kind of looked over the instructions. I got a little bit of an idea. I want to build one off camera myself, just so I can have the enjoyment of building the kit in peace and quiet without having to talk while I'm doing it, and then see if there's anything, any little tweaks to the assembly that I want to do as far as what I think would make it better. You know, when we did the ST70, I changed a few things, and I have a feeling that I'm going to, you know, do a few little, put my spin on this kit as well. So anyway, let's look at what you get inside. First of all, it comes in a double boxed, super heavy duty package. So there's no worry about this thing getting all beat up. It's super well packaged, which I have to deal with when I sell stuff, and the packaging sometimes is as hard as some of the assembly. So first of all, you get this giant circuit board here, right? And it's going to get broken into smaller boards. Like here's a board, here's a board, there's a board, and then here's multiple boards along this side, and then here's the main board right here in the middle. But it's all made as one big board. Okay? And so, yeah, normally I do point-to-point wired stuff, and some folks may be like, you know, so what do you think about using a PC board for a tube amp? And, you know, I still like point-to-point wired for tube amps, but I think in this case, it's going to be fine. And so, hey, we don't have a lot of choice if we're going to build this kit. And I think I showed y'all the instructions. That's one of the reasons I don't build kits, is there's no way I could come up with instructions that complete or that well done. And the instructions look really nice. And then these boards have like all the parts labeled, and then they got the resistors all, you know, this thing is R19 and all that stuff. So it shouldn't be too hard to populate this. And actually building circuit boards is fun to me. I really enjoy it. It's one of the things I enjoy about building those phono stages, is just sitting down with some music playing and populating the board. So I want to put this over the side. So I think this is one of his custom pieces. This is like a clear plastic top plate that you can put if you're not going to be running a cage. Got that deal. And we got some stuff there to protect that. Then we have, this looks like the cage, which I'm not going to be using. I mean, some of you folks that have, you know, I've got dogs, but they're not going to get near these things. And I don't have any kids, and so I don't have to worry about that. But this is like the cage. And yeah, I don't... Is it plastic? I think it is. That seems kind of strange, but okay. Anyway, that looks like a cage. We're not using that. So I did see in the instructions that this is the little rod that goes from the front to the back of the amp for the power switch. And I really like that they're putting the power switch in the back of the amp away from the signal tubes, and they're using a mechanical connection between the front push button and the power switch in the back. So it helps keep the noise away from the sensitive driver tube. So that's a very nice design piece. And then there's some more cardboard. And then I'm going to set this on the floor so it's easier to get in. So here's what y'all really came to see, I have a feeling, and that's the iron. So let me get this unwrapped and we'll see what we've got in here. This looks like the power transformer. And yes, it is. This is a power transformer. Looks like a dual toroidal round thing around this giant kind of oval shaped core. And it's all pre-wired. It's got jacks on the end of it to make it easy to plug in. And should make hooking all that stuff up easy. And that's a beast of a power transformer, which is kind of the heart of the amplifier, having a really good power supply. And this one appears to be the case. So let's see what the next piece in the box is. So it's interesting, it comes with a power cord that has 3 prongs on this end, your typical IEC connector, but it's only got 2 on this end. It's undergrounded. Yeah, I don't know what I think about that. We may end up grounding the one we build. So yeah, that's just a little side note there. And then you've got, there's wire and connectors here. I'm not sure what these are used for. We will find out when we're building the amplifier. And then let me get these bags, and I'm going to open these bags up off camera so you don't have to listen to the plastic crinkling. Okay, so here's a bunch of small parts. Here's little brackets for the cage, which we're probably not going to be using. Then we have the tube sockets. These look like nice built-in tube sockets. I do like that they stand the tube sockets up away from the PC boards for these big output tubes to keep the heat away from it. And here's a little RCA jack. We have the bias meter, which is a cool thing. I like that it's manual fixed bias. And then here is, there's a volume pot trimmer, which I'm not really sure whether I'm going to use that or not. It does show how to optionally just bypass this pot, and we're probably going to do that because if we're going to be driving it with a preamp, we can adjust the gain going into it via the preamp. And if we were going to pad the input signal, I would rather do it with, creating an L pad with some fixed value resistors rather than using a potentiometer. And then we don't have potentiometer, you know what I'm saying. And then these little pots are likely used for setting the bias, which is fine. Looks like we're using Rubicon filter caps, electrolytics. I don't have any problem with using Rubicon caps. And I think some of these are the stock coupling caps, little box film caps. We're not going to be using those, so that whole bag may end up getting in the trash. There's the push button for the turn on. Then we got packages of screws and hardware and stuff. Got a bunch of little jacks for plugging in different things. The output transformers, the power transformer, and all that kind of stuff. Don't like these speaker jacks. These are just the little kind of cheap plastic. Yeah, they don't fit what I consider an amp of this quality should use for a speaker jack. So we're probably going to be going with something a little nicer than these. Just if nothing else for appearances. I don't think these probably aren't going to hurt the performance, but yeah, I want it to look really nice too. And these look like some I don't know what exactly these are. Oh, these are the feet. And probably going to try to do something more upscale with the feet too. May end up putting some ISO acoustic stuff under the feet. We'll see. Here's a heat sink for some of the solid state electronics. Then there's some IC chips in here, some transistors. So there is some sand in this amp. You know, if you're looking for a all tube, no solid state anything, this probably isn't the amp for you, but I'm not afraid of it. Then here's a bunch of resistors and another film cap. We'll see what else is in the box. This is another Rubicon. And then here's our IC connector that's got, it does have a ground. I'm not sure why they're not using it on the plug. And again, here's our little connectors. Let's get some more stuff out of the box. Okay, so we had these little packages over to the side. I want to make sure we're not missing. I don't see any parts in there. There must be something special wrapped up in here. And a big nothing. That was disappointing. Okay, let's see if there's something in one of these. Maybe you just stuff these in here too. This pack is padding. And another big nothing. Okay. Come on, there's got to be something in one of these. And another big nothing. Okay, so let's see. There's got to be something in this box. Here we go. Here is some WBT silver solder. And then here are the audio note resistors and the special parts that Victor puts into the amp with his instruction. These are all the signal path resistors, which I have learned do change the sound of the amplifier. And so that's part of what Victor does, is he has an upgrade kit with these audio note tantalum resistors to improve the sound. And then he included a Mullard EF86, new old stock. And then here is an RT 12AU7. And I've got a bunch of different 12AU7s that we can try in this amp, but I don't have a lot of these EF86s. So this is a made in Great Britain Mullard, so that's probably a very nice tube. So yeah, wasn't much in there. These were all just empty boxes, but this had some goodies in it. And then here is the special sauce, the Lundell transformer that was wound specifically for this amplifier. And one of the things that's interesting about this design is it doesn't use your standard global negative feedback that goes to the speaker outputs. There's actually a tertiary winding in the output transformer that is specifically for the feedback loop. And so I really like that the speaker's back EMF isn't going into the feedback loop back to the input tube, that it's got its own winding that isolates the feedback loop from the speakers. Because as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of global negative feedback. None of my amps up until this point have had global negative feedback, which bugs electrical engineers, but that's okay. I think amps sound better with local feedback. And while this is not local feedback, it's not global negative feedback where the loop's hooked up to the same connection that the speakers are. And so let's take a look at this guy. And this is a beast of a transformer. And in typical Lundell fashion, it's got a bunch of different connections here that we'll have to figure out while we're wiring up the amp. But shouldn't be too complicated. The other thing that I've read on some forums about people having issues with the way they have these speaker jacks put on their little circuit boards and their connection to the output transformer. And again, I haven't built the amp yet, so I don't know if this is possible. I may end up using some wire to run straight from the output transformers to the jacks and bypass having any kind of plugs and harnesses and that sort of thing. So that's why I want to build one on my own first to see what's possible without sitting there on camera going, yeah, how am I going to do this kind of thing. So I can be a pro while y'all are watching me and go, look how easy she does this. So anyway, let's see what else is in here. Somewhere in here there's got to be a chassis, right? See what this thing's going to look like. Here's the chassis. That looks really nice. I really like this just black powder coated plain kind of finish. And it looks like it's going to probably just have kind of silver screws and trim and stuff on it, which black and silver just always looks classy. And again, there's probably not going to be anything gold on it like these speaker jacks. So I've got some silver and black that have kind of that faux carbon fiber that are all metal speaker jacks. And we're probably going to be using those just so it looks better to me. So anyway, that's what the chassis looks like. And I think there's one other little piece in the box. Let's see what's in there. Oh, it's the little front plate. And it's a little Elekit, and it's silver too. And so that looks really nice. And after we get done building it, we may put a skunky badge over the top of that. But we'll decide that in the future. Anyway, that's going to look super nice. And again, I know when I was first talking about this, several of you were making comments looking at my equipment rack in my new room. I was like, where are you going to put that? And now I've made a big shift in plans. I'm going to be building a specific listening room building on my property. And so these are going to get used and tested in that new space with my new Gershman speakers and maybe some other stuff we can try in that room. And I really want to use some lower efficiency speakers so we can be pushing these things and really see what they're going to sound like. But I want to go ahead and get them built. And I can always set them on the floor and hook them up to some speakers that are in the room. Probably going to drive them with one of my color preamps and maybe just build a black powder coated one to kind of match the theme of these so they look the same. And maybe even try to size the chassis to fit this whole, like maybe it can sit between the two, you know, have this, then have a little metal box color preamp, and then have another one of these on the other side of it. That would probably look good. So anyway, that's the unboxing. Hope you've enjoyed this. And thanks for Victor for getting me a pair of these real quickly. Just FYI, I did buy these. I wanted to have the same experience you would have if you were buying stuff from him. And yeah, don't think that if I say these are good, it's because they were given to me. They weren't. And you can see the pricing on his website. But these have gone up a little bit since they first were released, or when the first prototypes came through. And now you're going to be paying the tariff. I paid tariffs when they come into the country. And so you can talk to Victor about what the pricing is. I'm not going to get into that. But again, I'm going to be using these with KT-88s to start with. And then I've also got some KT-120s that didn't bias up in a single-ended amp, but they'll probably work fine in a push-pull amp. So I've got some of those here too. So we're going to be trying that. I've got some, actually got some KT-90s. I don't have any KT-150s. Actually, I do have a couple of KT-150s that we can play with. And then, obviously, in the distant future, I'm probably going to pick up a set of KT-170s. I am a new sensor dealer, and so I did that so I could buy tubes for my projects when I use electro-harmonics, which are mainly in my phono stages. If I go buy 100 tubes, I can get a good price on them. And I can get a decent price on some KT-170s, but they're still really expensive. So Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to get busy building this thing. And then once I kind of figure out how we're going to probably slightly skunkify it, then I'll show you when we build the second one what I'm doing, how to do it. And I think I'll do one of my slow solder joint by solder joint. Just set the camera up here on the bench. And for you guys that like that ASMR of me just soldering stuff, you can watch as I build along. And then you can build a pair of these. I think this is the kind of thing where you're getting easily $10,000 worth of monoblocks for half, which is, you're supposed to save money on kits, but that's some crazy discounting, and this is world-class stuff. I mean, this power transformer is, Jesus, I mean, that's no joke. That's no joke. And Lundell stuff is like top shelf. And I really like the idea of not having global negative feedback and using the tertiary winding in the transformer to do the feedback. I think it's going to give it a really great sound. So anyway, thanks again for supporting the channel. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't. Please subscribe. Please like the video. Comment below about what you think about this kit. This looks like fun stuff. And until the next video, have a nice day.